The courtroom's cold air pierced Myra's lungs. The jury's eyes fixed on her, while Loretta sat in the witness stand, her gaze as sharp as shattered glass. From the recorder, a voice filled the silent courtroom.
Pregnancy? Just acted out well. That old woman is obsessed with grandchildren anyway.
Myra's face went pale. It was her own voice. In that moment, she realized her fatal mistake, underestimating her mother-in-law. Loretta spoke, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade.
40 years as an obstetric nurse, faking pregnancy, targeting my son and my late husband's legacy.
Her voice was ice itself.
You thought I was just a grieving old widow, didn't you?
That night, the recording Loretta had discovered by chance. Her daughter-in-law's conversation with a friend. Everything was a calculated fraud. Mark still didn't know. His wife was a monster wearing the mask of love.
I will protect my family. Everything you tried to destroy, I'll reclaim. This fight is my last gift to my son.
The courtroom door opened. The judge entered. Myra's fate would be sealed. And all of this began 2 months ago, on that fateful autumn day. Loretta Jenkins sat on her living room sofa, scrolling through her daughter-in-law Myra's Instagram feed, her frown deepening with each swipe. The screen displayed an endless parade of designer handbags and 5-star restaurant photos. Yesterday's post showed Myra holding a champagne flute, despite claiming she'd quit work due to pregnancy complications.
Strange? Alcohol for a woman 5 months pregnant?
40 years as an obstetric nurse had honed Loretta's instincts to a razor's edge. The warning bells in her mind weren't just ringing. They were screaming. She enlarged the photo. Myra's baby bump looked oddly symmetrical, too perfect. In 4 decades of helping women through pregnancies, Loretta had never seen such a uniformly round bump at 5 months. Real pregnancies created unique shapes, affected by the baby's position, the mother's posture, the time of day.
Mark, honey, has Myra shown you the latest ultrasound?
She says the doctor wants to wait another week.
Mark replied, his voice carrying that blind trust that made Loretta's heart ache. The Victorian house in Philadelphia's suburbs had been Loretta's sanctuary for 35 years. Every corner held memories of her late husband Charles. The maple tree he'd planted on their 10th anniversary stood proud in the front yard, its October leaves blazing orange and gold. Charles had been gone only 6 months, taken by pancreatic cancer that moved faster than their prayers. Mark entered the living room carrying 2 cups of tea, his kind face bearing the same trusting expression his father had worn. At 38, he managed a small accounting firm downtown, successful enough, but not wealthy. His marriage to Myra 3 years ago had seemed like a blessing at first. She was charming, beautiful, 12 years younger, and seemingly devoted.
Mum, you need to stop worrying about us. Myra's just having a difficult pregnancy. The doctor says it's normal for her to be moody.
Loretta took a sip of tea to hide her expression. Moody? Myra wasn't moody. She was calculating. Last week, she'd suggested they put the house in Mark's name for tax purposes, then casually mentioned adding herself to the deed just in case something happens during delivery.
Has she let you come to any appointments?
Loretta asked carefully. Mark's shoulders tensed slightly.
She's very private about medical things. You know how she is.
Yes, Loretta knew exactly how she was. Myra Vance had appeared in Mark's life like a perfectly timed miracle, just when he was lonely after a painful breakup. She'd played the part of the devoted girlfriend flawlessly, but Loretta had noticed the cracks, the way Myra's eyes lingered on expensive items, how she steered conversations toward inheritances and investments, the subtle way she isolated Mark from old friends who might see through her facade. The doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. Mark went to answer it, and Loretta heard Myra's honeyed voice floating through the foyer.
Oh, Mark, I'm so exhausted. The baby's been kicking all day.
Loretta watched as Myra entered, one hand pressed dramatically against her belly. The young woman was undeniably beautiful. Long auburn hair, green eyes that could shift from innocent to calculating in a heartbeat, and a figure that, despite the supposed pregnancy, remained suspiciously toned everywhere except for that too-perfect bump.
Hello, Loretta. Still inspecting my social media, I see.
Just enjoying seeing my future grandchild's progress.
Loretta replied evenly. Myra's hand tightened on her belly.
Well, the doctor says everything's perfect. In fact, he thinks it might be twins.
Twins? You didn't tell me that.
I wanted to be sure before I said anything, but we'll need to think about the future. This house won't be big enough for twins, and with your mother here...
The implication hung in the air like a toxin. Loretta set down her teacup with deliberate calm.
How exciting. Which doctor did you say you're seeing again?
Dr. Patterson at Jefferson Health.
Myra replied smoothly. Too smoothly. Loretta nodded. She knew every obstetric department in Philadelphia from her 4 decades of nursing. Jefferson Health didn't have a Dr. Patterson in obstetrics. They had a Dr. Peterson, but she was on sabbatical. It was a small lie, easily explained as a mistake, but Loretta's trained mind filed it away with all the other small inconsistencies. That evening, after Mark and Myra left for their apartment across town, Loretta sat in Charles's old study. The walls were lined with medical journals and family photos, their life together chronicled in silver frames. She pulled out a notebook and began writing down everything she'd observed. The symmetrical bump, the champagne, the missing ultrasounds, the non-existent doctor. Each detail alone meant nothing, but together they painted a picture that chilled her to the bone. She thought of Charles, how he'd always said she had the sharpest mind he'd ever known.
You see things others miss, Lori. Trust your instincts.
Her instincts were screaming that her son was being conned by a master manipulator. The next morning, Loretta did something she hadn't done in years. She called in a favor. Beverly Chen had been her closest friend during their nursing years and now worked as a paralegal at a law firm specializing in fraud cases.
Bev, I need your help.
Loretta said without preamble when her friend answered.
Lori, what's wrong?
I think my daughter-in-law is faking a pregnancy to get to our family money.
There was a pause.
That's a serious accusation.
I know. That's why I need proof before I say anything to Mark.
Beverly sighed.
What do you need?
Can you check if someone named Myra Vance has any history we should know about? Previous marriages, debts, anything?
Give me a few days, and Lori, be careful. If she's really running a con, she won't take kindly to being exposed.
After hanging up, Loretta made another decision. She drove to 3 different electronics stores until she found what she needed. A small voice recorder that could fit in her pocket. If Myra was going to slip up, Loretta would be ready. That afternoon, she invited herself to Mark and Myra's apartment under the pretense of bringing homemade soup. Myra answered the door in yoga pants and a flowing top that artfully concealed her midsection.
Loretta, what a surprise.
Myra said, her tone suggesting it wasn't a pleasant one.
I brought chicken soup. It's good for the baby.
Loretta said, breezing past her. The apartment was expensively furnished, too expensively for Mark's salary. A new leather sofa, a massive television, designer curtains. Loretta's experienced eye calculated at least $50,000 in recent purchases.
Mark's at work, I assume?
Yes, pulling extra hours. We need the money for the nursery.
Myra's hand went to her belly in that practiced gesture.
Speaking of the nursery, have you picked out colors?
Not yet.
Myra's phone rang and she glanced at it.
I need to take this. Help yourself to tea.
She disappeared into the bedroom, closing the door most of the way. Loretta stood perfectly still, straining to hear. Myra's voice carried just enough.
I told you, a few more months. No, he completely believes it. The old woman's suspicious, but she can't prove anything. Trust me, by the time the miscarriage happens, I'll have my name on everything. The house alone is worth $800,000.
Loretta's blood ran cold. She pressed record on the device in her pocket, but Myra had moved further into the room, her voice becoming muffled. Still, she'd heard enough. The woman was planning to fake a miscarriage after securing her claim to the family assets. When Myra emerged, Loretta was calmly sipping tea at the kitchen counter.
Everything all right?
Loretta asked innocently.
Just a friend checking in. You know, Loretta, I've been thinking, it would mean so much to Mark if you showed more enthusiasm about the baby. Your coldness is really affecting him.
It was a masterful manipulation, positioning herself as the victim while painting Loretta as the problem. But Loretta had dealt with master manipulators before in her nursing career.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I'd love to come to your next prenatal appointment. As a former obstetric nurse, I could help explain things to Mark.
Myra's face went rigid for just a moment before the mask slipped back on.
That's sweet, but the doctor prefers only the parents present.
How unusual. Most doctors welcome family support, especially from medical professionals. Well, I should go. Take care of yourself, dear. And the baby. Or babies, was it?
She left Myra standing in the doorway, those green eyes burning with suspicion and something darker, the first hint of the rage that lurked beneath the perfect facade. That night, Loretta lay in bed thinking. She had no real proof yet, just suspicions and a partially overheard conversation. She needed more. She needed something that would open Mark's eyes without destroying him. 3 days later, Beverly called back.
Lori, you're not going to believe what I found.
Loretta gripped the phone tighter.
Tell me.
Myra Vance isn't even her real name. She was born Marilyn Vachner. She's been married twice before, both times to older men with money. The first marriage ended when the husband discovered she'd been stealing from his business accounts. The second ended when she was caught in an affair with his business partner, but not before she'd managed to get a substantial divorce settlement.
Dear God.
There's more. She's got $60,000 in credit card debt and another $40,000 in student loans for a degree she never finished. She's been living off credit and small cons for the past 2 years. Your son, he's her biggest score yet.
Loretta closed her eyes.
Send me everything you have.
Already done. Check your email. And Lori, you need to be very careful how you handle this. She's dangerous when cornered.
After reviewing Beverly's findings, Loretta knew she needed more than financial records and past history. She needed irrefutable proof of the fake pregnancy, and she knew exactly how to get it. The next morning, she called Myra.
I want to apologize for my behavior. You're right. I haven't been supportive enough. Let me make it up to you. I'd like to take you shopping for baby clothes.
There was a pause.
That's unexpected.
I'm trying to be a better mother-in-law. What do you say, this Saturday?
I suppose that would be nice.
Saturday arrived gray and drizzly, matching Loretta's mood as she picked up Myra. The younger woman had dressed carefully, a maternity dress that emphasized her bump, pregnancy glow makeup, even a slight waddle as she walked. They went to an upscale baby boutique where Loretta watched Myra play the part perfectly, cooing over tiny outfits and discussing nursery themes with the sales clerk. But when Myra went to try on a maternity coat, Loretta noticed something crucial. She bent down to pick up her purse with the flexibility of a yoga instructor, not the careful movement of a woman 5 months pregnant.
This is lovely, but so expensive.
Nothing's too good for my grandchild.
Loretta said, pulling out her credit card. As they left the store, Loretta suggested lunch. She chose a restaurant she knew well, one where her former colleague's daughter worked as a manager. Sarah recognized her immediately.
Mrs. Jenkins, how lovely to see you.
Sarah, this is my daughter-in-law, Myra. She's expecting.
Sarah's eyes lit up.
Congratulations. How far along?
5 months.
You look wonderful. My sister just had her baby. The last trimester was rough, but those second trimester ultrasounds were amazing. Have you found out the gender?
Myra's smile flickered.
We're keeping it a surprise.
As they ate, Loretta carefully steered the conversation toward pregnancy symptoms. Myra had clearly done her research, mentioning morning sickness, fatigue, and cravings. But when Loretta asked about quickening, the first fetal movements, Myra's description was textbook rather than personal.
It's like butterflies.
More like gas bubbles at first, then little pops. Every woman describes it differently.
Myra's green eyes hardened slightly.
Well, that's how it feels to me.
After lunch, Loretta made her move.
I have a surprise. My friend runs a private ultrasound boutique nearby. I've booked us a session. We can get beautiful pictures for Mark.
The color drained from Myra's face.
I can't. The doctor said too many ultrasounds can be harmful.
That's outdated information. Modern ultrasounds are completely safe, unless there's another reason.
They stood on the sidewalk, rain beginning to fall, and Loretta saw the exact moment Myra realized she was trapped. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered.
You scheming old witch. You've been planning this.
I've been protecting my son.
From what? From someone who loves him?
You don't love him. You love his inheritance, his trusting nature, and the life you think you can steal from him.
Myra stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper.
You can't prove anything. Mark believes me completely. He'll choose me over you.
We'll see about that.
Loretta turned to walk away, but Myra grabbed her arm with surprising strength.
If you try to interfere, I'll tell Mark you're having dementia episodes. I'll convince him you need to be in a home. Don't test me, old woman.
Loretta looked down at the hand gripping her arm, then met Myra's eyes with steel in her own.
You just made a crucial mistake, dear. You showed me who you really are, and now I know exactly what I'm fighting.
She pulled free and walked to her car, leaving Myra standing in the rain. As she drove away, Loretta's hand went to her pocket, where the recorder had captured every word of Myra's threats. The battle for her son's future had officially begun. But first, she needed one more piece of evidence, the smoking gun that would destroy Myra's elaborate fiction once and for all. That night, as rain drummed against the windows of the old Victorian house, Loretta sat in Charles's study planning her next move. On the desk lay Beverly's report, the voice recorder, and a new determination forged from a mother's love and a widow's fury. Tomorrow, she would begin the delicate process of opening Mark's eyes to the truth. It would hurt him, perhaps break him temporarily, but better a painful truth than a beautiful lie that would destroy everything Charles had built, everything they'd saved for their son's future. She looked at Charles's photo on the desk.
I'll protect him, I promise.
The war was just beginning. 2 weeks had passed since the confrontation in the rain. Loretta stood in her kitchen, watching the morning news while preparing breakfast. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mark.
Mom, Myra had bleeding last night. At the hospital now. Please come.
Loretta's hand tightened around the phone. The fake miscarriage. It was happening sooner than expected. She grabbed her coat and the folder Beverly had compiled. Today, she would need ammunition. Jefferson Hospital's maternity ward buzzed with activity. Loretta found Mark in the waiting area, his face etched with worry.
Mom, thank God you're here. They're examining her now. She was in so much pain.
Loretta hugged her son, feeling his body shake with suppressed sobs. Even knowing the truth, her heart broke for him.
What exactly happened?
She woke up screaming, said there was blood. But when we got here, the bleeding had stopped. They're doing an ultrasound now.
Of course it had stopped. There had never been any bleeding. Loretta sat beside her son, wrestling with her conscience. Should she tell him now, in this vulnerable moment? Or wait for Myra to hang herself with her own lies? A doctor emerged from the examination room, his expression professionally neutral.
Mr. Jenkins, your wife is stable. However, we couldn't detect a fetal heartbeat.
Mark's face crumbled.
The baby, is it?
I'm very sorry. It appears to be a missed miscarriage. The fetus likely stopped developing weeks ago. We'll need to discuss options for management.
Loretta watched the doctor carefully. Something in his tone, a slight hesitation, made her wonder if he suspected the truth. After all, you can't detect a heartbeat that never existed.
Can I see her?
Of course. She's asking for you.
As Mark rushed into the room, Loretta caught the doctor's arm.
Doctor, I'm a retired obstetric nurse. The ultrasound. Did you actually see any fetal tissue?
The doctor's eyes flickered with recognition.
I cannot discuss patient details without consent, but I've recommended she follow up with her regular obstetrician for complete documentation.
It was as close to confirmation as she would get. There had been nothing on that ultrasound because there had never been a baby. Inside the room, Myra lay propped against pillows, tears streaming down her face in a masterful performance. Mark held her hand, whispering comforting words.
I'm so sorry, Mark. I failed you. I failed our baby.
No, don't say that. These things happen. We'll get through this together.
Myra's eyes found Loretta in the doorway, and for just a moment, the mask slipped. There was triumph in those green eyes, not grief.
Loretta, I know we've had our differences, but I need my family now.
The manipulation was breathtaking. By framing herself as the victim, Myra was ensuring Mark would protect her from any accusations. Loretta forced herself to approach the bed.
Of course, dear. We're here for you.
The words tasted like ash in her mouth. Over the next 3 days, Myra milked the tragedy for all it was worth. She posted on social media about her loss, gathering sympathy from hundreds of followers. She had Mark waiting on her hand and foot, too consumed by grief to notice the inconsistencies in her story. But Loretta noticed everything. How Myra forgot to maintain the charade of physical discomfort when she thought no one was watching. How she secretly ordered sushi, raw fish that pregnant women avoid, for lunch. How she was already researching vacation destinations on her laptop while supposedly mourning. On the 4th day, Loretta made her move. She arrived at Mark and Myra's apartment with homemade soup and a hidden agenda.
Myra, I thought you might want to talk, woman to woman. I've had miscarriages too.
It was true. She'd lost 2 pregnancies before Mark, though she rarely spoke of them. Myra's eyes narrowed slightly, but she nodded.
That would be nice.
They sat in the living room, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the expensive furniture.
Which doctor performed your D&C?
What?
The procedure to remove the fetal tissue? Surely they didn't leave it to pass naturally? That can cause infection?
Myra's hand fluttered to her stomach.
They said it would pass naturally.
How unusual and dangerous. You should get a second opinion. I know an excellent specialist.
That won't be necessary.
The temperature in the room seemed to drop.
You know, Myra, I've been thinking, this tragedy, perhaps it's a sign. Maybe you and Mark should take some time apart to heal.
Myra's mask cracked.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that grief can cloud judgment. Mark might benefit from some distance to process this loss.
You're trying to separate us.
I'm trying to protect my son.
Myra stood abruptly, her composure finally shattering.
You bitter old hag. You can't stand that Mark loves me more than you? You're jealous that I gave him something you never could. A chance at a family.
But you didn't give him that, did you? You gave him a lie.
The words hung in the air like a challenge. Myra's face went white, then red with rage.
Get out! Get out of my home!
Loretta stood slowly, deliberately.
Your home? This apartment is in Mark's name. The furniture was bought with his credit cards. Cards that you've maxed out, by the way. I've seen the statements.
You've been spying on us?
I've been protecting my son from a parasite.
Myra lunged forward, her hand raised to slap, but Loretta caught her wrist.
Touch me and I'll file assault charges. Add that to fraud and you're looking at serious jail time.
Myra wrenched free, breathing hard.
You have no proof of fraud.
Don't I? Beverly Chen is very thorough. Marilyn Wagner.
The use of her real name hit Myra like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, her carefully constructed world beginning to crumble.
How did you...
Your first husband, Robert Marsh, you stole $40,000 from his business. Your second husband, David Chen, you had an affair with his business partner while emptying the joint accounts. Should I continue?
Myra sank onto the couch, her face a mask of defeat. Then, slowly, she began to laugh, a bitter, hollow sound.
You think you've won? Mark will never believe you. He loves me. He'll choose me over his meddling mother.
We'll see about that.
Loretta pulled out her phone and played the recording from weeks ago. Myra's voice clear as crystal, discussing her fake pregnancy scam. Myra's laughter died.
That's illegal. Recording without consent.
Pennsylvania is a 2-party consent state for phone calls, but this was an in-person conversation in my son's apartment where I was an invited guest. Perfectly legal.
It was a bluff. The legality was questionable at best. But Myra didn't know that.
What do you want?
I want you gone. Divorce Mark. Leave Philadelphia. Never contact him again.
And if I refuse?
Then I play this recording for Mark. I show him Beverly's report. I contact your previous victims and encourage them to press charges. Your face will be on every local news station as the woman who faked a pregnancy to steal from a grieving family.
Myra's hands clenched into fists.
I'll get alimony. Pennsylvania has no-fault divorce. I'll still get money.
Not if you're in prison for fraud.
They stared at each other across the battlefield of the living room. Finally, Myra spoke, her voice low and venomous.
You've destroyed my life.
No, dear. You destroyed your own life the moment you decided to prey on my family.
The front door opened, and Mark's voice called out.
Hello, Mom, Myra.
Myra's eyes darted between Loretta and the doorway, calculating her options. Then she made her choice. She threw herself onto the floor, screaming.
Mark, help! Your mother attacked me. She's trying to hurt the baby.
But in her panic, Myra had made a fatal error. There was no baby anymore. She'd already faked the miscarriage. Mark rushed in, saw Myra on the floor, and his mother standing calmly nearby.
What's going on? Myra, what baby? We lost the baby.
Myra's face went white as she realized her mistake.
I meant, I'm confused. Your mother upset me so much.
But Mark was looking at her differently now, really looking. He saw the calculated position on the floor, the lack of actual tears, the way she couldn't meet his eyes.
Myra, what's really going on here?
Loretta remained silent. This was Mark's moment of awakening, and he needed to reach it himself. Myra scrambled to her feet, reaching for Mark.
Baby, your mother's been harassing me. She's jealous of our love.
But Mark stepped back, his accountant's mind finally engaging, adding up all the small inconsistencies he'd been ignoring.
The doctor at the hospital. He seemed confused when I asked about our regular obstetrician. You said Dr. Patterson, but he'd never heard of them.
I was confused. I meant Dr. Peterson.
Dr. Peterson is a woman. You kept saying he, and she's been on sabbatical for 6 months.
The room fell silent. Mark turned to his mother, his face pale but determined.
Mom, tell me the truth, all of it.
Loretta pulled out the folder Beverly had prepared and handed it to her son.
I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you need to see this.
As Mark opened the folder and began to read, Myra made one last desperate attempt.
Mark, please, I love you. Everything I did was for us.
But Mark wasn't listening anymore. He was reading about Marilyn Wagner, about the 2 previous marriages, about the debts and lies and cons. His hands shook as he turned each page, his world crumbling with every revelation. Finally, he looked up at Myra, and there was nothing in his eyes but disgust.
Get out.
Mark, please.
Get out.
His roar shook the apartment. Myra grabbed her purse and fled, her sobs echoing in the hallway. Real tears this time, tears of defeat. Mark collapsed onto the couch, the folder scattering across the floor. Loretta sat beside him, pulling her son into her arms as he broke down completely.
How could I be so stupid? How did I not see it?
She was very good at what she did. This wasn't your fault.
The baby? There was never a baby, was there?
No, sweetheart, I'm so sorry.
They sat together as the afternoon sun faded into evening, a mother holding her broken son, both of them grieving, him for the family that never was, her for the innocence he'd lost. But Loretta knew this was far from over. Myra wouldn't go quietly. Women like her never did. The real battle was just beginning, and it would be fought in a courtroom. She looked at the scattered papers on the floor, evidence of fraud, identity theft, and emotional manipulation. It was enough to destroy Myra completely. The question was, how far was Loretta willing to go to protect her son? The answer came immediately, as far as necessary. The war had escalated, and Loretta Jenkins was ready for battle. The law office of Cyrus West occupied the entire 40th floor of a gleaming Philadelphia high-rise. Loretta sat across from the legendary attorney, a man whose reputation for destroying opposition was matched only by his fees.
Mrs. Jenkins, based on what you've shown me, we have grounds for both criminal fraud charges and civil litigation. This woman has committed identity theft, wire fraud, and attempted grand larceny.
I want her destroyed completely.
Cyrus's gray eyes studied her with approval.
I appreciate clients who know what they want. The criminal charges alone could result in 5 to 10 years imprisonment. The civil suit will ensure she never profits from this scheme.
What do you need from me?
Everything, every text, email, recording, witness statement, we're going to bury her in evidence.
3 days later, Myra was served with papers at her friend's apartment, where she'd been hiding. Loretta heard about it from Mark, who'd received a hysterical phone call.
She's threatening to kill herself, Mom. She says, we've ruined her life.
That's manipulation, honey. Classic abuser behavior. Don't respond to any of her calls.
But what if she actually...
She won't. Narcissists like Myra love themselves too much. This is just another performance.
She was right. Instead of self-harm, Myra went on the offensive. She hired a budget attorney and filed a countersuit, claiming emotional distress, defamation, and incredibly, breach of promise. She was actually suing Mark for breaking his promise to support her through pregnancy. The local media picked up the story. Philadelphia love triangle turns legal, read the headline. complete with photos of Myra looking beautifully tragic. She'd given an exclusive interview, painting herself as a woman who'd lost her baby and then been attacked by a jealous mother-in-law.
I loved Mark with all my heart. Yes, I had past relationships that ended badly, but I was young. I made mistakes. Haven't we all? To lose my baby and then be accused of faking the pregnancy, it's monstrous.
The interview went viral. Public opinion began to shift. Comments poured in supporting Myra, calling Loretta a bitter, controlling mother who couldn't let her son go. Mark showed up at Loretta's house that evening, haggard and desperate.
Mom, maybe we should drop this. Let her go. The attention is killing me. My clients are asking questions.
That's exactly what she wants. She's counting on you to cave under pressure.
But what if we're wrong? What if there really was a baby?
Loretta took her son's face in her hands.
Mark, listen to me. I've spent 40 years in obstetrics. I've seen every type of pregnancy, every complication, every loss. That woman was never pregnant. Trust me.
The preliminary hearing was set for the following week. Cyrus had filed for expedited proceedings, citing ongoing fraud and risk of flight. The night before, Loretta couldn't sleep. She stood in Charles's study, looking at their wedding photo.
Give me strength, Charles. Help me protect our son.
The courthouse was packed with reporters. Myra arrived in a conservative black dress, looking pale and fragile. She'd hired a new attorney, a woman named Gloria Hampstead, who specialized in defending women against powerful families. Loretta recognized the strategy immediately. David versus Goliath, with Myra cast as David. The judge, Honorable Patricia Morse, was known for her no-nonsense approach. She reviewed the initial filings with a poker face. Ms. Hampstead, your client is facing serious criminal charges. How does she plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor. My client is the victim of a malicious prosecution orchestrated by a woman who couldn't accept her son's choice of partner.
Your Honor, we have extensive documentation of fraud, including recordings of the defendant discussing her scheme.
Illegally obtained recordings, Your Honor. Fruit of the poisonous tree.
I'll review the admissibility of evidence separately. For now, let's address bail. Cyrus stood, his presence commanding the room.
The defendant has a history of fleeing when exposed. 2 previous marriages both ended when her fraud was discovered. She's already using an assumed name. We request bail be set at $200,000.
Outrageous. My client works as a part-time yoga instructor. She has no assets.
Because she spent all the money she stole from Mr. Jenkins.
Enough. Bail is set at $50,000. Next hearing in 2 weeks. As they left the courthouse, Myra stopped directly in front of Loretta and Mark. The cameras clicked frantically.
Mark, please. Remember what we had. Remember our dreams.
Mark turned away, but Myra grabbed his arm.
I did love you. That was real.
Nothing about you was real.
The pain in his voice made even the reporters step back. Myra's perfectly composed face cracked for just a moment, revealing something that might have been genuine hurt. Or perhaps it was just anger at losing her Mark. That night, Loretta received an unexpected call from Dr. Patterson, the real Dr. Patterson from Jefferson Health, who had returned from sabbatical.
Mrs. Jenkins, I heard about your situation. I wanted you to know that I've never treated anyone named Myra Vance or Marilyn Wagner.
Would you be willing to testify to that?
Absolutely. Medical fraud is a serious matter. I've also checked with colleagues. No one has treated her.
It was a crucial piece of evidence, but Gloria Hampstead was clever. At the next hearing, she presented her own surprise.
Your Honor, we have a witness. Dr. Mitchell Kane, a private physician who treated my client.
Loretta watched as a young man took the stand. Something about him seemed off. His medical degree was from an offshore school, his manner nervous.
I treated Ms. Vance for pregnancy complications. She was definitely pregnant.
Dr. Kane, where is your office located?
I operate a mobile practice.
Out of your van?
Snickers rippled through the courtroom.
It's a legitimate practice.
Can you provide ultrasound images, blood test results, any documentation?
Patient confidentiality.
Your patient has waived confidentiality by calling you as a witness. So, documentation?
The man fidgeted, glancing at Myra.
The files were destroyed in a flood.
How convenient. Dr. Kane, you're excused, and I suggest you review the penalties for perjury. The man practically ran from the courtroom. Gloria's face remained composed, but Loretta saw her hands clench. During a recess, Beverly appeared with new information.
Lori, I found something. Myra's been getting payments from a man named Victor Castell, $10,000 last month.
Who is he?
Her previous Mark. He's been paying her to stay quiet about their relationship. He's married to a senator's daughter.
Another piece of the puzzle. Myra had been running multiple scams simultaneously. When court resumed, Cyrus introduced the payment records. Gloria objected, but the judge allowed it. Ms. Vance, would you like to explain these payments? Myra stood, her voice trembling with what seemed like genuine emotion.
Victor and I had a relationship. It ended badly. The payments were personal.
Hush money?
Objection.
Sustained. Mr. West, please. But the damage was done. The picture of Myra as a serial manipulator was becoming clearer. Then came the moment Loretta had been dreading. Gloria called her to the stand.
Mrs. Jenkins, isn't it true that you never wanted your son to marry Myra?
I wanted my son to be happy.
But you didn't think Myra could make him happy?
I thought she was after his money.
Based on what? Her appearance? Her age? Your own prejudices?
Loretta remained calm, remembering Cyrus's coaching.
Based on her behavior, the expensive purchases, the pressure to transfer assets, the lies about doctors.
You mean the confusion of a grieving woman who had just lost her child?
There was no child.
You can't know that for certain.
40 years of obstetric nursing. I know a fake pregnancy when I see one.
But you're not a doctor, are you? Just a nurse.
It was meant to diminish her, but Loretta stood taller.
Just a nurse who's assisted in over 3,000 deliveries. Who's seen every type of pregnancy, real and imagined. Who knows the difference between a pregnancy belly and a prosthetic pad?
The courtroom murmured. Gloria's attack had backfired. That evening, Mark came to Loretta's house with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine.
You were amazing today, Mom.
It's not over yet.
I know, but seeing you up there, fighting for me, Dad would be so proud.
They ate in comfortable silence, the first peaceful moment they'd shared in months. Then Mark's phone buzzed. He looked at it and went pale.
It's from Myra.
The message was simple but chilling.
If I'm going down, I'm taking you both with me. You have no idea what I'm capable of.
Save that. Cyrus needs to see it. It's witness intimidation.
But as she looked at the message again, Loretta felt a chill. Myra was desperate now, cornered, and desperate people did desperate things. The next morning brought chaos. Someone had leaked Loretta's medical records to the press, highlighting a prescription for antidepressants after Charles's death. The headlines screamed about an unstable widow persecuting her son's innocent wife. Worse, someone had called Child Protective Services with an anonymous tip that Mark had been abusive to Myra. Though the claim was baseless, the investigation would be humiliating. Myra was playing dirty now, using every weapon in her arsenal. At the courthouse, protesters had gathered, some supporting Myra, others backing Loretta. The case had become a lightning rod for debates about family, marriage, and women's rights. Inside, Cyrus was ready with his counterstrike.
Your Honor, we'd like to introduce evidence of witness intimidation and malicious prosecution.
He presented the text message and documentation of the false CPS report. The judge's expression darkened. Ms. Vance, did you send this message?
I was emotional. It didn't mean anything.
Threatening messages to witnesses mean a great deal to this court. Bail is revoked. Defendant will be remanded to custody pending trial. The bailiff moved toward Myra, who looked genuinely shocked.
No, you can't do this, Mark, please.
But Mark had already turned away. As the handcuffs clicked around Myra's wrists, she locked eyes with Loretta. The mask was completely gone now, revealing the cornered animal beneath.
This isn't over, you old witch. I'll destroy you both.
As she was led away, Loretta felt not triumph, but exhaustion. The battle was won, but the war continued. The criminal trial would begin in 2 weeks, and Myra would have that time to plan her final gambit. Walking out of the courthouse with Mark and Cyrus, Loretta noticed a familiar figure in the crowd, Victor Castell, the married man who'd been paying Myra. His presence was a reminder that Myra's web of deception extended far beyond their family. The pieces were falling into place for the final confrontation. The one glimpsed in that terrible flash forward, Myra in the defendant's chair, the recording playing, the jury watching with rapt attention. The endgame was approaching. The criminal trial began on a cold November morning, 2 weeks after Myra's bail was revoked. The courthouse was surrounded by media vans, their satellites reaching toward the gray sky like mechanical prayers. This had become more than a local story. It was national news. Loretta sat in the prosecution section, her hands folded calmly in her lap. She wore Charles's wedding ring on a chain around her neck, a talisman against the storm ahead. Mark sat beside her, his face carved from stone. Myra entered in an orange jumpsuit, her beauty somehow undiminished by 2 weeks in county jail. She'd learned to weaponize her appearance, looking fragile and victimized. Several jurors visibly softened at the sight of her. The People versus Marilyn Wagner, also known as Myra Vance. The defendant is charged with fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit grand larceny, and witness intimidation. How does the defendant plead?
Not guilty on all charges, Your Honor.
District Attorney Sarah Williams stood for her opening statement. Cyrus had worked closely with her, ensuring the criminal and civil cases aligned perfectly.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about deception on the cruelest level. The defendant didn't just steal money, she stole hope, love, and trust. She fabricated a pregnancy to manipulate a grieving family still mourning their patriarch. This wasn't a crime of passion or desperation. It was calculated, cold, and heartless.
Gloria's opening painted a different picture entirely.
My client is guilty of one thing only: falling in love with the wrong man. A man whose mother couldn't let go, who saw my client as a threat to her control. When tragedy struck and my client lost her baby, instead of compassion, she was met with accusations and persecution.
The first witness was Dr. Patricia Peterson, the real obstetrician from Jefferson Health. I've never treated anyone named Myra Vance or Marilyn Wagner. I've been on sabbatical for 8 months. Anyone claiming I was their doctor during that time is lying.
Have you reviewed the medical records the defendant claims exist?
There are no records because there was no patient. Next came the hospital administrator, who testified that no ultrasound had detected fetal tissue during Myra's supposed miscarriage. The technician who'd performed the scan confirmed there had been nothing to see. On the second day, Beverly took the stand with her research.
The defendant has used at least 3 different names over the past decade. She's been married twice before, both times to men with significant assets. Both marriages ended when financial irregularities were discovered. Objection. Past relationships aren't relevant to this case.
They establish a pattern of behavior. Overruled. The most damaging testimony came from Robert Marsh, Myra's first husband, who'd flown in from Seattle.
She told me she was pregnant to get me to marry her quickly. After the wedding, she had a miscarriage. I later found out from her friend that there had never been a pregnancy. By then, she'd already stolen $40,000 from my business accounts.
Myra's composure cracked. She whispered frantically to Gloria, her hands gesturing wildly. Day 3 brought the forensic accountant, who detailed Myra's spending, $90,000 in 6 months, all on Mark's credit cards. Designer clothes, jewelry, trips to spas, expensive dinners. The jury saw receipts dated during her supposed pregnancy complications when she claimed to be bedridden. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Loretta took the stand.
Mrs. Jenkins, please describe your professional background.
I was an obstetric nurse for 40 years at Pennsylvania Hospital. I've assisted in over 3,000 deliveries.
What made you suspicious of the defendant's pregnancy?
Multiple factors. The symmetrical bump that never changed shape. No visible pregnancy symptoms like breast changes or the pregnancy mask. She could bend and move like a gymnast at 5 months. She drank alcohol. She avoided all medical appointments when family offered to accompany her.
Did you confront her?
I tried to take her for an ultrasound. She panicked and revealed her true nature.
Sarah Williams approached the evidence table.
Your Honor, we'd like to play State's Exhibit 47.
The courtroom fell silent as the recorder clicked on. Myra's voice filled the room, exactly as it had in that flash-forward moment.
I told you, a few more months. No, he completely believes it. The old woman's suspicious, but she can't prove anything. Trust me, by the time the miscarriage happens, I'll have my name on everything. The house alone is worth $800,000.
The jury leaned forward, several members' faces hardening with disgust. This was the moment from Chapter 0, the recording that would seal Myra's fate. Gloria stood for cross-examination, her strategy clear. Paint Loretta as the villain.
Mrs. Jenkins, you never wanted your son to marry my client, did you?
I wanted my son to marry someone who loved him, not his inheritance.
You took antidepressants after your husband's death. Were you thinking clearly during this time?
Grief doesn't make someone blind to deception. If anything, loss makes you more protective of what remains.
You recorded my client without her knowledge.
I recorded someone planning to defraud my family in my son's own home.
Gloria tried several more angles, but Loretta remained unshakable. Her 40 years of dealing with distressed families had prepared her for this moment. On day 4, the defense presented their case. Myra took the stand, a risky move that Gloria had advised against. But Myra's narcissism demanded she tell her version.
Myra, tell us about your pregnancy.
It was real. I was so happy. Mark and I were building a life together.
What happened?
I started bleeding one night. The pain was unbearable. I lost our baby, and then I lost everything else.
She was convincing, tears streaming down her face. But Sarah Williams was ready for cross-examination.
Miss Wagner, which pharmacy filled your prenatal vitamins?
I don't remember.
Because there were no prescriptions. What about morning sickness medication?
I didn't need any.
Lucky you. Now, about this recording. That's your voice, isn't it?
It's taken out of context.
What context makes, by the time the miscarriage happens, I'll have my name on everything acceptable?
Myra's mask finally shattered completely.
You don't understand. I deserved that money. I put up with that pathetic man and his controlling mother for 3 years. I earned every penny.
The courtroom gasped. Gloria's face went white. Myra seemed to realize what she'd said, her hands flying to her mouth.
I didn't mean...
No further questions.
The damage was catastrophic. The jury had seen the real Myra, not the victim, but the predator. Mark was the last witness, his testimony brief but powerful.
I loved her. I trusted her completely. When she told me about the baby, I was the happiest man alive. To find out it was all a lie, that I was just a mark, a score. It's destroyed my ability to trust anyone.
Do you believe the defendant ever loved you?
No, I was just a bank account with a pulse to her.
Closing arguments were swift. Sarah Williams reminded the jury of the evidence, the recordings, the fake pregnancy, the pattern of fraud. Gloria tried desperately to salvage the case, claiming Myra was confused, traumatized, a victim of circumstances. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours.
We find the defendant guilty on all counts.
Myra collapsed in her chair, sobbing. But Loretta noticed they still seemed like performed tears, an actress's final scene. Marilyn Wagner, you've been found guilty of fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit grand larceny, and witness intimidation. Sentencing will be in 2 weeks. As the bailiffs led Myra away, she turned one last time to look at Mark and Loretta. Her green eyes burned with pure hatred.
This isn't over. You've destroyed my life, but I'll haunt yours forever.
Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Loretta gave a brief statement.
Justice has been served. My son and I can finally begin to heal. We hope Ms. Wagner gets the help she clearly needs.
It was gracious, diplomatic. But inside, Loretta felt no charity toward the woman who tried to destroy her family. That evening, she and Mark sat in Charles's study, the room that had become their war room over the past months.
It's really over, isn't it?
The criminal trial is. There's still the civil case, but Cyrus will handle that.
I mean her. She's really going to prison.
For at least 5 years, possibly 10.
Mark was quiet for a moment.
Mom, how did you know? From the very beginning, how did you know what she was?
Your father used to say I could see through people like glass. It's a gift and a curse. I saw her studying our family photos, calculating our worth. I saw her memorizing your routines, your preferences, becoming exactly what you wanted. Real love doesn't require that much performance.
Will I ever trust anyone again?
Yes, but you'll trust with wisdom now, not blindness. That's not a bad thing.
2 weeks later, at sentencing, Judge Morse delivered her verdict. Ms. Wagner, you've shown no remorse, no acknowledgement of the pain you've caused. You targeted a grieving family with surgical precision. This court sentences you to 8 years in state prison, followed by 5 years probation. You're also ordered to pay full restitution to the Jenkins family. Myra stood frozen. Her carefully constructed world finally, completely collapsed. As she was led away in shackles, Loretta felt Charles's presence somehow, a warm approval of a wife who'd protected their legacy and saved their son. The war was won, but Loretta knew the scars would take much longer to heal. 6 months had passed since Myra's sentencing. Spring had returned to Philadelphia, and the maple tree Charles had planted was budding with new life. Loretta stood at her kitchen window, watching Mark work in the garden, therapy his counselor had suggested. The doorbell rang, interrupting her peaceful morning. A courier stood on her porch with an envelope marked, Urgent Legal Documents.
Loretta Jenkins, this requires your signature.
With trembling hands, she opened the envelope. Inside was a notice from the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. Myra had been granted an appeal hearing based on new evidence. Her new attorney claimed to have proof of prosecutorial misconduct. Mark appeared in the doorway, dirt on his hands, concern on his face.
Mom, what's wrong? You've gone pale.
She handed him the letter. His jaw tightened as he read.
She can't do this. She was convicted. It's over.
Apparently it's not.
The phone rang. It was Cyrus West.
Loretta, I assume you've received the notice. We need to meet immediately.
2 hours later, they sat in Cyrus's office. The attorney's usually confident demeanor was subdued.
Myra has a new lawyer, Richard Blackstone. He's known for getting convictions overturned on technicalities.
What technicality?
He claims the recording you made was illegally obtained and that without it, the entire case falls apart. He's also found something else. Victor Castell is willing to testify that Myra was actually pregnant.
What? But that's impossible.
Castell claims he was the father, not you, Mark. He says Myra lost his baby and was too afraid to tell you the truth.
The room spun. Loretta gripped the armrest of her chair.
He's lying. Why would he lie for her?
Blackmail, most likely. Myra knows something about him that could destroy his marriage and political ambitions.
Mark stood and paced to the window.
So she could get out? After everything?
There's a possibility. But we have options. I've been investigating Castell. He's got secrets of his own.
3 days later, Loretta received an unexpected visitor. A young woman with tired eyes and a baby on her hip stood at her door. Mrs. Jenkins, I'm Amy Chen, David Chen's daughter, Myra's former stepdaughter.
Come in, please.
Over tea, Amy revealed why she'd come.
I heard about Myra's appeal. I couldn't let her get away with it again. When she was married to my father, she did the same thing. Faked a pregnancy, then a miscarriage. She destroyed him emotionally and financially.
Would you testify to that?
Yes, but there's more. I have her old laptop. She forgot to wipe it when she left. There are email search histories about how to fake pregnancy, orders for prosthetic bumps, everything.
Loretta felt a surge of hope, but Amy wasn't finished.
There's something else you should know. Myra had a child once, years ago. She gave it up for adoption. The guilt twisted her into what she is now.
The revelation hung in the air. Even monsters had origin stories. The appeal hearing arrived on a humid Thursday. The courtroom was smaller this time, less media attention. Myra entered looking gaunt but determined, prison having carved away her soft edges. Richard Blackstone opened aggressively.
Your Honor, my client was convicted based on illegally obtained evidence and testimony from a vindictive mother-in-law with a history of mental health issues.
The judge, a different one this time, looked skeptical, but allowed him to continue. Victor Castell took the stand, his testimony polished and practiced.
Myra and I had an affair. She became pregnant with my child. When she lost the baby, she was devastated and afraid to tell Mark the truth.
But Cyrus was ready. He presented Amy's evidence, the laptop files, the emails, the search history. Then Amy herself testified, her quiet dignity a stark contrast to Castell's nervous energy. The most damaging blow came from an unexpected source. Dr. Mitchell Kane, the fake doctor from the first trial, had been arrested on unrelated charges and offered to testify in exchange for leniency.
Myra paid me $5,000 to lie about treating her. There was never any pregnancy. She bought a prosthetic bump online and coached me on what to say.
Myra's face crumbled. Blackstone tried to object, but the damage was done. Then Loretta took the stand for what she hoped would be the last time. Mrs. Jenkins, why are you still fighting this battle?
Because truth matters. My son deserves to heal without looking over his shoulder. And frankly, other vulnerable people deserve protection from predators like Ms. Wagner.
Isn't it true you've spent over $100,000 on this case? That seems like an obsession.
Loretta looked him directly in the eye.
It was my husband's life insurance money. He would have wanted it used to protect our son. Every penny was worth it.
The judge deliberated for only an hour. The appeal is denied. The original conviction stands. Furthermore, based on the evidence of attempted witness tampering through Mr. Castell, I'm adding 2 years to Ms. Wagner's sentence. Myra screamed, a raw animal sound of defeat. As the bailiffs dragged her away, she locked eyes with Loretta one final time.
I hope you're happy. You've won everything.
But standing there, Loretta didn't feel like a winner. She felt tired, hollowed out by months of battle. The victory had cost her savings, her peace of mind, and part of her soul. Outside the courthouse, Mark took her arm.
It's really over now.
Is it? You still flinch when women approach you. You still check backgrounds obsessively. We won the war, but look at the casualties.
Mom, you saved me. That's all that matters.
A month later, Loretta received a letter forwarded from the prison. Myra's handwriting, but different. Less controlled.
I know you'll probably burn this, but I need you to know something. The child Amy mentioned, I was 17, scared, pressured by my family to give her up. Every relationship since has been me trying to fill that void, to create the family I lost. It doesn't excuse what I did, but maybe it explains it. I'm getting therapy here. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for the pain I caused Mark. Not for trying to secure my future. I'll never apologize for that. But for the pain.
Loretta read it twice, then filed it away. She wouldn't burn it, but she wouldn't answer it either. Some bridges were meant to stay destroyed. 6 months later, at a coffee shop downtown, something unexpected happened. Mark met someone, a pediatric nurse named Grace, who was transparent to the point of bluntness, who showed him her credit report on their third date as a joke that wasn't really a joke. I heard about what happened to you. I want you to know I have my own money, my own life, and zero interest in anyone else's inheritance.
That's refreshingly direct.
I figure after what you've been through, you deserve complete honesty. Loretta met Grace a month later. She was everything Myra wasn't. Plain-spoken, financially independent, and genuinely devoted to Mark without any performance. As they had dinner together, Loretta found herself relaxing for the first time in over a year. The war was over, the enemy defeated, but the scars remained. Mark still went to therapy. Loretta still checked his credit card statements, though she tried to hide it. Trust, once shattered, was rebuilt slowly, painfully. But there was hope. The maple tree Charles had planted was thriving, its leaves green and full. New growth from old roots. Mark laughed more now, the sound no longer forced. He'd even started talking about the future again. Maybe marriage with Grace someday, if he could ever trust that much again. The doorbell rang one evening as Loretta was preparing dinner. A process server stood there with papers. Her heart sank. What now? But when she opened them, she laughed. It was from Cyrus. Myra's civil suit had been settled. The jewelry and designer goods purchased with Mark's money would be auctioned, the proceeds returned. It wasn't much, maybe $30,000, but it was something. There was a note from Cyrus. Consider this a small rebate on justice. Use it for something Charles would have loved. Loretta knew exactly what to do. She would plant another maple tree next to Charles's, one for each battle won, for love defended, for family protected. That night, she stood in the garden where both trees would grow, talking to Charles's memory.
We did it, my love. Our son is safe. The cost was high, but he's safe.
The wind rustled through the leaves, sounding almost like approval. Somewhere in a Pennsylvania correctional facility, Myra Vance, Marilyn Vachner, sat in her cell, planning. 10 years was a long time, but not forever. She'd learned from her mistakes. Next time would be different. But that was a threat for another day, another family. For now, the Jenkins family had won their war, paid their price, and earned their peace. The victory was costly, scarred, and incomplete, but it was theirs. Thank you so much for listening to this complete audiobook story. If you enjoyed this journey with our characters, please consider subscribing to our channel for more captivating audiobook experiences. Your likes help us reach more listeners who appreciate quality storytelling, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of the ending? Which character's journey resonated with you most? Share your interpretations and theories with our amazing community of audiobook lovers. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our next emotional, gripping story. Until next time, keep listening, keep feeling, and keep discovering amazing stories. Thank you for being part of our audiobook family.